is a vacuum extraction subkit. Now, what this is the home abortion kit, basically, that we've talked about here before. We have a video of it that we were able to get from this Feminist Women's Health Center in California. We wouldn't run it on LifeTalk. And I mean, it's the most unbelievable thing you've ever seen. Women, it's like a Tupperware party. Women sit at home and give themselves abortion. Literally, that's what it is. And we've got a video of it, but this menstrual extraction is what they call it. And that's what this is. So they're going to go down here to this country that has been devastated by this, over 200,000 people killed. And they're going to give these people an abortion kit that they can use at home.
This is so sick. This is why people, you know, the race card is not played at the right time.
Right.
This is racism in its ugliest form. This is it in its ugliest form.
Exactly. This is one of the things we talk about in my office. This would not happen if this was England or France or Australia or Germany. This would never happen.
Can you imagine? Okay, half your family has just been crushed to death by the rubble of your own house. You're standing outside your house. Half your family's gone. Your house is gone. You're living in squalor. The heat is immeasurable. You're hungry. You're thirsty. And here comes Planned Parenthood. We're here to help you. Here's a home abortion kit. And take some birth control pills.
Right.
Have an earthquake, get an abortion. Have a tsunami, get an abortion.
And see, for a person like me, that is saying to me, the earthquake didn't kill enough of them.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly.
The earthquake didn't kill enough of them.
We'll come in and mop up. Well, the censorship continues. Washington State now is considering a law posed by a guy, surprisingly, the man's pro-abortion. Can you imagine? In which the state would literally regulate what crisis pregnancy center counselors can say to people that come in. But it doesn't control what abortion clinic counselors say to people. So if a woman walks into an abortion clinic and says, "Is this a baby?" and they tell her, "No, it's just a glob of cells," even though that's an out-and-out blatant lie and everybody knows that it is, the state's not going to regulate that. But they're only going to regulate crisis pregnancy centers, and this is part of a campaign we've talked about here many times that's going on all over the country to shut down the crisis pregnancy centers because these people don't want women having any option. They call it a choice, but it's a choice only as long as you choose it. Right. If you decide to unchoose it, you're out.
And this is why Operation Rescue has always fought against any free speech bans, whether it's outside the abortion clinic in a bubble zone or crisis pregnancy centers, because the government is always trying to limit our ability to disseminate the truth. We must fight everywhere this ugly dragon rears its head. And here we see it in Washington State, where they're trying to tell crisis pregnancy centers that they can't show pictures of an aborted baby or even show sonogram pictures or tell the truth about fetal development.
Are they fighting that? Are the CPCs fighting that?
Oh, sure, yeah, but you're talking about Washington State. You know, we're not talking about Alabama or Texas.
We have a constitutional right to say what we want to say?
Not in America.
Apparently not.
Okay. If you're
depends on which side of the issue you're on. Right. If you're on the right side of the issue, you can say whatever you want to say. But I'll tell you what, the fact remains that we're still winning. The abortion clinics are still shutting down. The polls are still moving in our directions. Young people are still coming into the pro-life movement in record numbers. Right. And
we still got folks like Jill here who knows what went down and is able to say it. I'm enjoying this.
I want to talk for a minute about a subject that is unfortunately something we talk about all the time, and that's these cowards in the church. And, you know, I get a lot of people mad at me, but the fact is that's the problem with this country is we got a church run by people with no character, no courage. And that's the bottom line reality here. We talked a few months ago about this guy, Vincent Lachina, up in, again, in Washington. No, I'm sorry, in Oregon. He's claims to be Southern Baptist. He's the Planned Parenthood of America's Clergy Advisory Board counselor, chairman or whatever. And he's still active. He gave the keynote speech at the opening of the new death camp up there.
He's a pastor?
Yeah, Southern Baptist. We talked about him a couple of months ago.
Yeah, they just kind of zoned me out there for a second.
Me too. I thought,
what? Jamie, we talked about this a couple of months ago. You don't remember?
I must not want to remember it because
But this is going on all over the country. This is not anything unusual. Look right here in Texas. I think it's really interesting that the largest church in America is in the same city with the largest abortion mill in America. The same city. And that pastor of that church if you want to call him that. That pastor of that church is the one who gave the blessing speech when Houston, Texas, what was it, fifth largest city in the United States, fourth largest city in the United States?
Right.
Well, it became the largest city in the United States to have a openly homosexual mayor, and he said that she was raised up by God to take this position.
I got news for that pastor. As much as he may smile on TV, when he's standing before God, God will not be smiling.
With her hand on the Bible, with his
Catholic
blessing.
theology professor at Xavier University in Louisiana, advising students to work with organizations that promote contraceptives and make them more available and raise awareness. Organizations, he says, such as, quote, Planned Parenthood. Now, it's
across the board.
It's across the board. We've said that many times. We've talked about Tony Campolo, another sellout that we talked about back during the elections. Now he's getting buyer's remorse over Obama. You know, I think they ought to stuff Obama's down his throat. But that's
Obama girl's got buyer's remorse too.
Yeah, she's got
Even
buyer's
the
remorse.
Obama girl is split.
right.
No kidding, I didn't know that.
But we do have one good guy here. Kentucky bishop, Catholic bishop, Ronald Gaynor. He's talking about Nancy Pelosi's pro-abortion record and her nonsense that she's involved in advocating abortion. His quote is, quote, "We've been patient long enough. It's time to start acting." That's the kind of guy that we need. Actually, they've been patient too long, but...
So she's Catholic and...
No, she claims she's excommunicated.
Catholic. Right. Okay.
You know, so...
Does she know that? Yeah.
She knows it. She just won't acknowledge it.
Right.
You know, but she's excommunicated. That's why I thought it was so outrageous the other day when you saw Joe Biden with his little ashes on his forehead. This man has excommunicated himself.
Right.
We just need some bishops to stand up and make it official. Again, we continue to see the pro-abort scared to death over the fact that so many young people are coming into the pro-life movement. And they're making open statements here. I got one here from this guy, woman, Danielle Bean, who went to this year's March for Life. And she wrote an article talking about how there's no energy among the youth on the pro-choice side. She said, I went to the March for Life and I see all these kids there. And she said, I'm really concerned about the future. The anti-abortion movement is gaining strength. And Roe supporters like me are justifiably nervous. Admits that he went with a agenda to prove that this youth movement was incorrect, found out that it was correct.
But I tell you what, Mark, what the young people are beginning to realize, they've lost a lot of friends.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, you can get
a third of their generation.
Yeah, and they're realizing this.
Yeah.
And I think they're at the point, sometimes people have a way of rebelling in some wonderful ways.
Right.
And to rebel against a lie is one of the most beautiful things you could ever do.
Right.
And they've been lied to that, you know, this is a woman's right to choose and this to help you. And I think the young people are not buying the lie.
You're right. They're obviously not buying it. A couple of things here. We're out of time. I want to go over real quick before we go to the Pro-Life 101. North Carolina, your stomping ground, Johnny, the proposal in the school textbooks there, some proposed language that would say that Roe versus Wade ruling was a ruling against government oppression of rights and should be opposed. That is going to be considered wrong in this textbook. You will not be able to say in this textbook that if you oppose Roe versus Wade, that you can't oppose Roe versus Wade because that is an oppression of somebody's rights.
Oh my!
And it would be it would be parallel, Johnny, to somebody coming out and saying we should have slavery again. That's the argument that they're making.
What you do when you get home? Huh? I know what he's doing when he gets home.
Actually, that's going to be a Martha showing at UNC Chapel Hill coming up, and that's a very liberal college, and yet there's some pro-lifers on that campus. I think even they would be interested. I want to start letting some of the young folks fight these battles now.
Yeah, well, we got plenty of battles to fight, so about starting new ones. But all right. Anyway, I wish we had time to get to all the stuff, but we don't. We'll be right back. In the years immediately after Roe versus Wade, one of the abortion lobby's stated goals was to have abortion become just a routine and accepted part of American culture. Of course, that never happened, and in the last few years, we have seen several articles published in which longtime pro-abortion activists conceded that their inability to mainstream and legitimize abortion has been their single greatest failure. The fact is, whether you're talking about the medical community or the general public, the pro-life movement has done a good job in maintaining the stench associated with abortion. Meanwhile, the abortion lobby has fought back against this with little or nothing to show for it. A good example of this was seen a couple of years ago when they began selling T-shirts with the saying, "I had an abortion," written across the front. As we know, this project went down in flames, and we can assume those T-shirts are now rotting in some dusty warehouse. More recently, there have been a few nationally published articles from pro-abortion writers trying to sell the idea that having an abortion is sometimes a more moral choice than not having one. Fortunately, there is no evidence that this is going to be any more successful than the T-shirt fiasco. Having said that, however, I want to caution each of you about softening your rhetoric. Today, it is obvious that the American people are growing increasingly uncomfortable with the idea of legalized abortion. But that is not a signal for us to back off. Instead, we must continue to hammer home the stigma associated with both abortion and the people who do them. We may not be able to keep our enemies from lying to the public and telling them that the issue is not abortion but choice. But what we can do is constantly remind the public that the choice these people are advocating is the wholesale slaughter of defenseless human beings by the millions.